company is starting to potentially think about the journey of bringing in robotics into their operations, um, of course there has to be a business case that's made for that investment. But what we often see is that business case tends to have the very direct costs associated with that investment, which makes sense, and mostly the direct costs or direct benefits associated with those robotics. But there are a lot of indirect costs and indirect value that gets added across the entire business when you start to introduce robotics and automation, right? Not just within the four walls of a warehouse, but average costs go down across whether it's picking or loading or unloading or what have you. There's an SG&A impact, a positive impact to SG&A. And by the way, one of the things that we always try to add to a value case or a business case is think about the additional valuable activities that your employees can do now if some of those other activities get taken over through robotics or automation. Right now, they can really focus on more strategic things,
or higher value kind of things. I think about being able to take pickers and convert them into people that can run, say, monogramming machines, so you can charge for value-added services and get, monogrammed towels and so forth. I mean, that kind of thing, creative thinking also is really important, I think, because you're right. I mean, you can keep the same labor costs, but then shift it towards a more revenue-generating kind of approach as opposed to just a cost center. That's a good point.
So I'm hearing that there are impacts to operating model, right? What are you going to do with your people? That there's new opportunities, perhaps even new revenue lines that appear when you're able to redeploy staff. I wonder, Steve, if you have an example in mind that you can walk us through of a client where you considered what robotics might do for them. Or maybe even it started with, hey, we have a problem that we can't solve. And you came to it with, well, robotics is probably the obvious answer, and let's walk through that.
Yeah, I do, actually. I mean, I think it gets back to what I was just saying earlier. I mean, and Dan was kind of highlighting, is that the impact of these things can be more than just what's inside the building itself. I had a client a number of years ago that was a discount retailer, and they were struggling to enter into the e-commerce market because just the cost of picking and shipping an order was more than the product itself. And they were kind of thinking about, how are we going to be able to get this in alignment with the market? So yeah, we're going to have to charge more than they probably would get from the store, but it can't be an outrageous double, triple, quadruple kind of amount. So robots were actually the answer. I mean, in that case, because obviously they've got a fixed cost, and once you invest in that, you're kind of locked in, and they also scale really nicely, I think, as well. And so that was kind of an instance where, yeah, there was labor savings associated with that. Labor savings enabled a revenue stream that just wasn't there before. And I think that probably happens in other things. I think another place where I see a lot of benefits tied to robots that go beyond just the labor operating model is third-party logistics. If you're in third-party logistics, I don't care what your scale is, whether you've got 25 people or 2,500 people in your warehouse, warehouses with robots look very attractive to potential customers as a place to put their business. That seems to send a message that you're interested in being on the leading edge of technology and fulfillment practice. And so people with robots, I've never seen a formal study, but I pretty much think this is probably real, having worked with a number of 3PL selections in the past. They'll get excited about it. They will get more business as a consequence. So those are two perhaps examples where I think it makes a lot of sense.